Generally, shareholders of a closely held corporation, which is a private company owned by a few individuals, owe fiduciary duties to one another. In addition, in most states, shareholders breach this duty and engage in oppressive conduct when they violate another shareholder's reasonable expectations. In Pedro versus Pedro, the Minnesota Court of Appeals considered whether two brothers violated their brother's reasonable expectations of lifetime employment. Alfred, Carl, and Eugene Pedro were three brothers who each owned a 1/3 interest in the Pedro Companies, a closely held Minnesota corporation that manufactured and sold luggage and leather products. All three brothers worked in the business for all or most of their lives, and the brother's father, who was deceased, also worked for the company for his entire life. Between 1987 and 1988, the relationship between Alfred and his brothers began to deteriorate after Alfred discovered a discrepancy between the company's accounting records and its checking account. Alfred then insisted they hire an independent accountant, and the brothers agreed. However, the accountant only found a portion of the discrepancy and couldn't complete his investigation because the brothers didn't give him access to the documents he requested. Around the same time, the brothers began to interfere with Alfred's work. They told Alfred that if he didn't forget about the discrepancy, they'd fire him. They also hired a private investigator to follow Alfred around. At the time, Alfred was 62 years old, had been an employee for 45 years, and expected to work at the company for the rest of his life. On October 27, 1987, Alfred was placed on a mandatory leave of absence from the company. 2 months later, the brothers fired Alfred and told employees he had a nervous breakdown, which wasn't true. All of Alfred's pay and benefits were also discontinued. Subsequently, Alfred brought an action against the brothers in state court for wrongful discharge and breach of fiduciary duty. Upon remand from an earlier appeal, the court found that the brothers breached their fiduciary duty to Alfred and awarded Alfred a buyout of his 1/3 ownership in the company and damages for the breach. The court also found that Alfred had an expectation of lifetime employment and awarded him lost wages for wrongful termination, as well as attorney's fees. The brothers appealed to the Minnesota Court of Appeals, arguing that they didn't breach their fiduciary duties to Alfred because the company's value didn't decrease.